Up to this point in the season, LSU has not had a 5-yard per game rushing average in any game outside of South Alabama, and Alabama's defense has only given up 1 5-yard per game rushing performance. Any coach would tell you, based on the alignment of this defense, you should like your numbers in the box. You see when this ball is actually snapped, the Ole Miss Rebels are in a too high safety look. Based on where they are, they're probably not going to fly in and help with the running game. And after Mason Taylor joins the box here, let's just do a simple numbers count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in theory, if everybody executes their block, we are probably going to pick up a pretty nice gain of yards. The problem is, well, not everybody picked up their block. In fact, it was only one player who wasn't able to pick up his block, and that is DJ Chester. Now, DJ Chester has not been that great at center this year for LSU, but there have been quite a few players and quite a few plays this season where LSU has simply not been able to pick up yardage because one offensive lineman misses their block. It has happened so many times. So I have a remedy for that that's coming up in just a moment. But here's the honest truth. If we get a semi-decent block right here, Josh Williams is probably squeezing through here, and it's one-on-one versus a safety for a touchdown. Or let's just say Walter Nolan is eventually able to get off this block by Will Campbell. He's fighting off this way and making a tackle here, and Josh is closer to the first down yardage, all right? What is the technical issue that happened here? Well, DJ Chester allowed this defensive lineman to cross his face. So this actually is not a hard block for Chester to make. In fact, this is the direction we want to run, to the left, because as you can see, there's 2 backers here to the right, and that's what we want to see, okay? So what happens here is Chester actually starts off with low leverage. It's in the worst blocking rep right here, but watch him. He eventually lets this defensive lineman cross his face. You can see he is pushed into the backfield. And the DT, by the way, this is not even one of their better DTs on the team. He's able to fend off this block and make the play. Take a look at the Crimson Tide here. They are in a clear numbers advantage. Vanderbilt, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Alabama's got more guys in this mix than Vanderbilt has. All right? Their run fits should feel pretty good on this 3rd and 1, okay? Now, what does Vanderbilt decide to do? Well, they're in a different personnel grouping. They're in 22 personnel here, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, but it's essentially the same concept, right? Zone blocking scheme, and we are split zoning this tight end around, and unlike the play you saw before, DJ Chester actually did not have a double. So one thing that I would like to see is giving DJ Chester a lot of doubles, not a whole lot of single blocks. And we are making sure that these DTs are blown off. But basically, notice what this Vanderbilt offensive line did throughout this game. They did a really good job of not letting Alabama offensive linemen cross face, right? So you notice everybody's getting blocked down. Look at all this pad leverage. Look at all of this. One thing Vanderbilt has going for him is Pavia can run. Garrett obviously can't run, especially not as good as Pavia. But you would like to see him do some zone read stuff because it does stretch the defense. And you'll see that Pavia, because of his running game, stretches out this end. But the truth is, if you're doing this split zone look and you actually split them out instead of actually having him be a lead blocker, it can actually stretch the defense out even more, right? This guy is playing the quarterback. You have one of these guys in the run fit playing the tight end. And the design of this basically took 2 players out of the fit just based on 1 player split zoning, right? So you're getting good doubles on their best run stoppers, stretching out their backside end. And now guess what? It is running back versus safety for a huge gainer. And guess what? 23 is not as good as 29. He might be able to break through that. But you see how important it is to not only make your single blocks, but also make life easier for your interior players. Look, I love every single LSU player on this team. I'm not piling on the LSU offensive line, and I'm not just going to pile on Joe Sloan either, but we need to do better, right? We just absolutely positively need to do better when it comes to our run game. And I actually like this design from Joe Sloan. I don't like the timeliness of it. So one thing that's going to be very critical before we break down this play into deep detail is you do get a stem. Now, what does a stem mean? Well, it's pre-snap defensive line movement just on the front. So watch what actually happens here. They stem to more of a straight-up two-tech, more of an A-gap alignment. Pre-snap, they were closer to the tackles. So they pinch in, and that's actually where we want them to be for this play. All right, so you get the pinch. We have some pre-snap motion, and we're going to show you the end zone angle about what went wrong with this play. Once again, Garrett Nussmeier is just not a zone read quarterback. This is why I wouldn't have run this play now on a critical 4th and 2. Maybe on 1st and 10, you try this for the first time. If we were more of a zone read team, maybe we should do it. But Garrett Nussmeier is running a zone read, and he probably should have pulled this, or he should have pitched this to Xavier Thomas. Okay? Instead, we give it to the running back. The end didn't play Garrett at all. That's part of why zone read stuff just doesn't work. All right. So remember, these defensive linemen were in a closer technique to the tackles, and you'll see that they do line up in a straight 2, which is directly straight up versus the guards, right? Kind of a weird alignment, and part of why defensive lines do it is because it can cause confusion over whose assignment is who. But the truth is, them doing that actually helps out LSU because you're trying to actually run the football here to the right. All right. Now, remember we were talking about crossing face. The design of this is actually to give Garrett an option. If he sees that this end is running directly at him, he's supposed to hand this football off. All right. Now, the next thing is if he sees this end actually play him or Caleb Jackson, the correct move is to actually pitch this football here to Xavier Thomas. And I want you to see, notice if we would have actually pitched this football to Xavier Thomas, we're picking up a pretty good chunk of yardage if we're able to execute a very simple block. Okay, remember, it was DJ Chester who made a mistake the last time through. This time, it's Emory Jones. Remember, this guy was actually out here. But now that he moved in here, it is a longer distance to make this block, but it is also a tad bit easier because we're trying to shield him from getting into this gap, right? If this player was right here, this would be a harder block for Emory to execute. And once again, this is a little bit of a distance to go, but all we need Emory Jones to do here, if Garrett had actually decided to pitch this football to Xavier, we just need Emory Jones to say, play side of this defensive tackle. Notice, let's just say if we actually did pitch this football to Xavier Thomas, this is actually going for a massive gain, right? The Joe Sloan design here is just, a simple option shovel pass design, but it worked. We just did not execute it. And Emory Jones, who's a very talented player, allowed the DT to cross face. Now, what makes it even worse is, let's just say Garrett decided to keep it. Remember, he's got to get a full 2 yards here. This DT right here, once again, this is not Walter Nolan. This is not their bona fide superstar DT. Let's just say Garrett had actually decided to keep it. Because Emory got beat so bad here, he's also making this tackle on Garrett. So he would have blown up either one of these plays. So even though we didn't like the play call because of the timeliness of it, the actual design of it would have worked. We just got to execute the blocks. So for us to win the game, we got to make sure this guy doesn't go Julio Jones on us. I've already released a Patreon film study on how to stop Jalen Milroe. It'll be linked down below, and you help out these independent film studies. Now, what do I see in the background? Oh, look. Is Vanderbilt running a shovel pass? So does Joe Sloan bring this play back? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Now, it's a little bit different because the quarterback isn't doing a zone read, if you will, with the running back. They did a lot of pistol sets. We also run pistol. We haven't been able to block anything out of it, though. And watch what happens. Shovel pass is there. Now, why did this shovel pass work? Well, number one thing it is important to note is Alabama's defensive line isn't as good as LSU's. But the second thing is notice what happens. Nobody crosses face. On the actual design of the run, everybody seals their defender in the direction of where the play is supposed to go. Now, the most difficult block is actually right here on this DT. All right, we need this left guard to get to the shoulder right here and seal this defensive tackle to the inside. So what do they decide to do? They give him help. All right, this critical block is a double. They actually pass off the double to the tackle. He goes to the next level. This backer's job is to get eaten up by the lead pullers here. And guess what? It works to perfection. This is the right decision, though, to run the shovel. All right, and take a look. It's right there. Notice we don't let anybody cross face. He's not crossing our face back this way. He's not crossing our face back this way. These two guys are out of the play, but even then, look at the seals on these guys over here. And guess what? Look at that hole. Look at that hole right there. It's amazing, right? It's honestly as simple at times as not letting guys get across your face. This is a huge problem for me in the Joe Sloan run scheme, and a guy that he can actually steal some ideas from is Lane Kiffin. He is the absolute best at calling runs where the blocks themselves from the offensive line don't need to be completed, right? What you use that for is a decoy, right? So you see we're running counter GY to the right side, right? So guess what the defense does? They read that it's counter GY to the right side, and they immediately just sprint to the right side. So what you can do here is fake this and actually quick pitch it to the left. Or if the end decides to just stay backside, what you can do is show this look and then actually just run the option, right? If the end commits to GARRETT NUSSMEIER, you pitch it. I mean, there's so many different creative things that I would like to see Sloan add to the run game. There's just nothing that's going to work. Look at how they just cram this bitch in, and there's really nothing there, okay? And guess who makes the tackle? It's Gordon, all right? This is not a regular run fit, right? It's just that they know what we're doing. This is the perfect example of predictability. And honestly, we blocked this pretty well, right? We get a seal here. We get a good bounce from the running back. But because Gordon is able to just work his way all the way through, he's able to make this tackle. That's actually a good job by Mbenga. And he makes the play, okay? It's bad. So specificity matters. I don't want to just be a hot take. Joe Sloan needs to improve without providing actual examples, okay? So we're not, in this spot, Tennessee, running counter GY, you're running counter GT, right? Or at least the defense thinks you're running counter GT to the left. So watch what happens. They pull both the guard and the tackle to the right side, which makes this defense think that they are running to the right side. All right. Now, you wouldn't think that Tennessee is running to the right side because the running back is actually to the right. So if there is a handoff, more than likely the running back is going to a left, right? But because defenses key pullers, whether it's defensive linemen or backers, watch what this does. Even though it is a clear running back situation where they're running to the left, the pullers going to the right side draws these guys to the right side. Okay? Now, I mentioned this quite a bit about how I don't like the LSU run game because we don't have these types of plays. I say this quite often. We don't have many plays where the run is not successful because of the blocks ahead of it, right? There's not a single offensive lineman here that has to complete a single block for this play to be successful because we are trusting these offensive linemen to be a decoy, right? They could whiff, honestly, every single one of these blocks, and this play still be successful, right? Because it's just a little stretch to the backside. Now, Scorton actually just ran to the right side. This time the end does hold serve, but this is what I'm talking about, right? We put so much stress on our offensive linemen, and we run a lot of quote-unquote misdirection plays, but we don't run enough misdirection where it doesn't require your offensive line to complete absolutely positively perfect blocks. And as we get ready for Alabama, these are the kinds of plays we should run versus them. Now, let's talk about this LSU passing attack. We already broke down the run in pretty deep detail. And here's GARRETT NUSSMEIER with a guy right in his face converting this third down to his reliable slot option, Mr. Aaron freaking Anderson on that zero blitz. So we've seen Garrett really dominate in the intermediate. He is one of the best over-the-middle throwers we have ever seen at LSU. But one area where Alabama has been, I guess you could say, vulnerable is hitting the explosives, right? If you really pay attention to the Georgia game in particular, they missed quite a few big plays. Now, you get to the very next play, and this is honestly pretty complicated. We'll break it down on so many different levels, but one area where Garrett is going to have to play big for LSU is in the QB run game, not only as a runner, but as a thrower on the run. This is something he did in particular versus Georgia in 2022, right? The SEC championship game, he made some absolutely ridiculous plays while throwing on the run, in particular to the right. Okay, so this is the play you just watched, and we get an all-22 view. You've got to make these special plays to beat big teams like Alabama. And while GARRETT NUSSMEIER on that last throw was absolutely positively amazing in the intermediate, and he was good in the intermediate and also had some good deep shots, mostly on slot fades. That big one to Aaron Anderson in the game was a slot fade. Alabama this year has done a really good job guarding slot fades. So these are the kinds of things that you have to do as a quarterback to beat this behemoth of a team. Now, obviously, Alabama's not some juggernaut like they are during the Saban years. But as you can see, C.J. Daniels was wide open for a touchdown. So why did Garrett not throw it to him? Well, it's because USC did a really good job watching the film from the other USC game and took away a lot of the things that we like to do, such as the really bad red zone pick at the end of this game. USC actually stole that concept from the USC Trojans, right? To have that big interception. It should have been a pick six and cost us a game, but we had a lucky penalty that went our way. So this is why GARRETT NUSSMEIER didn't throw it, because he predetermined where he was going to go with the football. LSU is running what's called a flood concept. So it's a vertical here, an intermediate here, and a shallow, right? It's a 3-level concept. And flood, you think of the name flood, they're just flooding one side of the field. Now, this is a little anecdotal, and we're going to be doing another Patreon study. Please go sign up for the Patreon. Alabama has struggled defending plays into the boundary. It's the short side of the field. So we're running flood to the boundary, and we hit this play versus the other USC for a big game. Now, flood concepts are really good concepts against something called quarters coverage. So it's deep force, right? So quarters. You have 1/4 of the field. And pre-snap, Garrett sees that this is quarters. And we just hit that Aaron Anderson play. So Joe Sloan's like, look, we got to get a big one. Let's hit him with the play action fake, which I love. The problem here is normally when you run flood versus quarters with the concept LSU is running right now, it's actually Kyren Lacy that's wide open. Now, why is Kyren Lacy the one that's normally open on flood? Because normally if this was true quarters coverage, the safety would actually be taken by this vertical. So what GARRETT NUSSMEIER assumed pre-snap was the safety was going to run over here to C.J. Daniels, all right? But the truth is the safety watched a lot of film because we ran this concept versus USC for a big gain, right? So he has leverage all over Kyren right here running the deep out. So Garrett is looking in this direction. You could see it for yourself. So once Garrett sees that the safety is here, he predetermined that he was going to throw this football to Kyren, and that's not there. We never want to actually throw this pass. But once you see that the safety is here, we want to throw this football to CJ. Let's just say this corner was running with CJ. Okay, we still want to throw it because CJ has leverage on him. We could throw a deep pass right here and trust CJ Daniels to out-athlete him and make that play. So Garrett is looking, he's looking, and guess what? He doesn't throw it, right? Because he was thinking, hey, this is going to be a Kyren ball all the way, or at least I think that's what he was thinking. Maybe he just got spooked and thought the corner was running with CJ. And here's the thing. Garrett is rolling out to the right side. He could still throw it. But he decided to stick with this check down. These are the kinds of shots that, you have to make. Now, we did end up scoring on this drive anyway, so you don't have to make it. And this still ended up being a very positive play. Now, one other thing is the QB scramble game is going to be there. So let's just say Garrett decided to step up into this pocket. Part of why he's rolling out here is his routes are over on this side of the field. But if he steps up vertically into the pocket instead of rolling out to the right side, look, he's got a dig right here to Shelton Sampson. All right. Obviously, he doesn't have a whole lot of faith in Shelton. He had never caught a pass up to this point in his career. Still hadn't caught a pass. But another thing is we want you to step up in, right? We don't want to automatically just roll out because if he is stepping up in, he is still eventually throwing this ball. And part of why this corner is so paralyzed by this situation is he's also locked in on Kyren Lacy. Remember, this was only the third game of the year, and, CJ, and then he had some decent games, but that wasn't the number one option. So it was still a good game, but we want more. All right, same thing here with this Carson Beck play. Slightly different, but also a little bit of the same. 34 is a good player. He's going to beat our tackles, even though Emory Jones and Will Campbell are both really good players. He's going to beat us from time to time. They're going to be aggressive in their pass rush lanes, and we need Garrett to do some of this, right? These types of runs were very critical for Georgia in this game. But there's more to it. So quarterback mobility is not just about taking runs. It's about stepping up vertically and seeing routes that aren't designed to be the route and throwing it, okay? This vertical is probably not the intended route. You wouldn't think so, right? This overhang linebacker is basically just passing this off. And you could see that Alabama is in cover 6, right? So they're playing quarters over here and cover 2 over here. Corner over here is in cloud or man match, whatever. And watch what happens. So Lawson passes this off, and Carson Beck assumes that the safety is going to run with 5, and rightfully so, right? This is just a simple vertical route, but watch what happens. All right, he starts to run, he sees the alley, and, well, there was this. I think Carson Beck is a little bit, I'll defend him here because I have no idea how the safety did not see this vertical, but these are there, right? Alabama, in particular, to the right side of the field, they've had their issues getting everything in order when it comes to vertical routes. So, will LSU offensively light up a good but not traditionally elite Alabama defense? Well, yes and no. You are worried about Joe Sloan's play calling, but as we showed you today, yeah, the play calling from Sloan isn't really the absolute most creative designs, but you still got to go out there and make plays. LSU doesn't have as much formational diversity as Vanderbilt does. They run a lot of 11 personnel, which is what you see right here. Okay, so you have 1 tight end, 3 receivers, 1 running back. That's 11 personnel. But this is the sexy part of this play. We obviously run this play a whole lot. It's just a simple split zone. This was a big part of the Jayden era. And I would like to see us run it more. This has been just the Mason Taylor route over the past couple of seasons. But in the background, it's not the play that worked. It's the person, okay? So what you'll see here on this 3rd and 1, Vanderbilt does a really good job selling this run, right? And the thing that really sold it was they took their superstar receiving tight end out of the game, Eli Stowers. He was the only receiver in this game to have over 100 yards. And they're honestly, outside of the Georgia game, there hadn't really been a whole lot of 100-yard receivers versus Alabama. So they are thinking, hell, they have been running on us all day. We might get a QB run. There's no way they're going to throw to the blocking tight end. So if you run this, yeah, you can run it with Mason Taylor some, but why not do it with Pimpton or someone else? Sell based on personnel, not only in terms of groupings, but also in terms of the specific player themselves, right? This route was nothing spectacular. In fact, if you're Alabama, you feel pretty good about it because the guard whiffs a block here, and the DT gets through unabated, and the contained defender's also here. So they feel good about stopping this run. They also feel good about the QB contained game, but they were fooled because they were like, there's no way that they would actually throw to the blocking tight end with Stowers out of the game. But that is exactly what Vanderbilt decided to do. So in the background, you see us running basically the same play. We're also giving an end zone angle here. Obviously, in the open portion of the field, they are not going to be expecting this as much as it would happen in the red zone. So that's why I say mix it up, run it with a different tight end. Heck, do it with Giovanni Peterson or former offensive lineman Bo Bordelon. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Give that a shot. Why not? But you see this in the backdrop, and the simple truth is this, okay? This stat really blew my mind. And once again, we're dealing with smallish sample sizes. But when you adjust for Power 4 competition, LSU has not really been as efficient when it comes to touchdown percentage as you would like. As many of you know, there was some really, really bad red zone execution in this game versus USC and the other game versus USC. And obviously you saw the Caleb Jackson run. That was the extended red zone on 4th and 2. We weren't able to convert at the end of the second half. There was an opportunity, or the first half, there was an opportunity to score a touchdown there. We just haven't been as good in the red zone as we would like. Here's the good news. Alabama versus Power 4 teams, 3rd highest touchdown percentage in the SEC. Now, once again, smaller sample size, but they haven't been as good in the red zone as you would like. So, obviously, getting 4 extra points can be the ultimate difference in a game as important as this. So, hopefully, we see that come through. Now, let me know in the comment section below. And by the way, if you're watching this on a premiere, whoever you are, I know you're getting ready to drop a nice, juicy Venmo, Cash App, Super Chat, all that stuff. I know you guys are ready. Hopefully, we can get some runs going. I want you to give me your honest opinion. How confident are you in this LSU offense going up against Alabama? And I want you to give it to me as ruthlessly as you possibly can. Some of you, based on the live chats that we have had, you are not convinced at all that we can do it. Partially because our vertical passing game, and this is a semi-vertical passing concept, we haven't been able to get it done. As you see here, Garrett throwing the seam ball to Mason Taylor. Alabama's had major issues guarding the seams. We had a chance to hit some verticals down the sidelines if we played it a little bit smarter. But can we get vertical? Can we also continue to see Garrett kill the intermediate? But ultimately, the beginning part of it is where a lot of your allegiances lie, per se. Can you run the football? I think ultimately that's where a lot of you are at this juncture. Can LSU line up and get it done? I don't know. You guys know I go on AYS every Monday night. Blake and I got into a pretty spirited debate, and he strongly believes LSU can run the football. I am skeptical. I really, really, really am. I just don't think we're magically going to be able to start being able to do this, even though Alabama has shown some leaks in their rush defense. But I hope I'm wrong. I really, really, really do hope I'm wrong. That's why I shared a few creative rushing concepts. Like I said, the comeback game, deeper comeback, hitches, all that stuff. I feel pretty good about that. Brian Kelly, of course, dodging the collision there. But honestly, let me know what you guys think, and we will talk to you soon, okay? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Don't forget pregame, halftime, postgame shows. And tonight we are doing taco soup. Night 4. Let's go.